Payment Services Directive. It's what is it? Well, first of all, it's a European legislation. It was originally brought in 2007 into Europe. It's now going through an update, so it was a year of consultation across the financial communities. It actually missed consultation with the telecommunication community, so a lot of people were caught by surprise. And it is pretty boring to read it from cover to cover, as all regulation is. And it technically should have nothing to do with premium rate, which is why when they took it out to consultation for an update, they only sent it out to the financial industries around Europe. But it does, and the reason it does is because the Payment Services Directive essentially says if you are processing payments from the consumer through to a merchant, or even from a business to a business, then you need to be financially regulated unless you're already a bank and registered as a bank, or already a e-money institution and registered as such in Europe. If you're not, if you don't fit those two broad categories, you need to be a payment service processor, or PSP. So as a result of that, virtually everybody who's processing some form of payment, particularly with consumers at one end, have to become financially regulated. And then inside that, there are exemptions. So the exemptions were known as negative scope, so this all applies to you apart from these things, and the negative scope is for certain operations. So things like store cards fall under what's known as a limited network exemption, which means if you're shopping in, give us a good shop, B&Q for example, if you're a regular shopper in B&Q for your screws and nails and garden stuff, then B&Q can offer you a store payment card, and as a result of that, they don't have to become financially regulated because it's within the network of that store. Same for petrol cards, a lot of petrol companies. Unfortunately, some of those things were exploited. So store cards were, or the limited network exemption was exploited to create gift cards. So you can go into a card shop, buy a gift card, which was for Toys R Us, for example, or HMV is a good example. So if you bought an HMV card and so usually as a present for your children or something, then that fell under this exemption. Now it became exposed when HMV nearly went bust. Well, they did go bust, and then they got taken over, and they stopped honouring the gift cards because they didn't know if they'd been paid by the middle party that was actually selling the gift cards in the retail stores. So a lot of the change in PSD2 was to try and overcome some of the angles that people have found to escape financial regulation. So how does it affect telecommunications? Well, the original PSD, when it was written in 2007, finalised in 2007, all that was really available at that time to the knowledge of the European legislators was ringtunes, wallpapers, and a bit of music. So they actually wrote around those particular aspects of processing payments by the telecom operator for ringtunes, wallpapers, and music. And they also, earlier on in the document, completely exempted fixed-line telecommunication providers. So it's totally inapplicable to you, but mobile networks applicable to you because you're processing payments. But you're exempted providing you're adding value to the transaction. The value was discussed as being including search and access facilities to those particular services. However, it did create an ambiguity, and the ambiguity was as products started to emerge that were not ringtunes, wallpapers and music, then there was sort of a question mark as to whether the telecom operators had to become financially regulated in order to carry on that form of business. So what happens when you start to have doubt about that? So you have different implementations in different countries. So in one country, a telecom operator provided a facility where you could buy all your white goods, you know, 200, 300, 400 euros, and put it onto your telephone bill. And another telecom operator was saying absolutely no physical goods whatsoever because of that interpretation, and no money transfer as well. And then charity donation, which is texting your money off your telecom account to the charity's account is a money transfer service. It's because there's no actual goods or services received as a result of it. So a lot of ambiguity. And the other area where there's still ambiguity inside PSD1 is where the network operator acts purely as a payment processor, and there isn't an added value that can be derived from it. Then you have a requirement to financially regulated or not to use have those particular products. Google Play is very classic, where the network operator is not acting. It's only acting as a payment processor or as a payment intermediary. And the reason is because the consumer registers with Google Play. So they register with Google Play for a Google Play account. It then does a background check against a mobile number, and then from that point onwards you can use your mobile account to pay for products on Google Play. But as a consumer, you knowingly are buying from Google Play, and your operator is just processing the payments. And so technically, any operator that's currently running Google Play, which is most of them around the world, is acting as an intermediary and therefore needs to be financially regulated. And so there's a little bit of uncomfort feeling for the next couple of years. We might be in trouble or we might not. And to be honest, the amount of traffic that's going on at the moment, a lot of operators are not going to be in trouble. The Italians, for example, wouldn't connect Google Play because of that concern, that there would be the banking institutions were going up in them. There is also doubt within the UK, and this is a discussion that we're having with the Financial Conduct Authority, as to whether the value chain who are processing the exempted payments are also exempted from the requirement to be payment service processors. So the companies I mentioned earlier, like Engage and AIME, etc., they're processing exempted payments. Should they also be exempted? We believe they are, and they're written inside the FCA handbook as being, if you flip over a statement inside the FCA handbook, they are exempted, but the FCA are currently saying that they're also looking like merchant acquirers, which is what the credit card, debit card intermediary acts as a merchant acquirer. It's exactly the same model of a single connection to a bank or a single connection to a mobile network. It's the same, and then you're acquiring merchants to then use that connection to process payments. So we're constantly trying to keep the FCA on the wrong foot and keep them away from this particular territory. Right. So when PSD2 came in, the original text, which is what caught everyone by surprise, was that they narrowed down the definition so you couldn't buy a fridge on your telecoms account, and they narrowed it down to digital content. You could only purchase digital content. Now, digital content has definitions inside Europe, which is the delivery and receipt of digital bytes, digital bits and bytes, or something like that, which essentially said you had to get something in order to fall under the PSD2 exemption. Now, a lot of pre-rate services are services. So if you dial a chat line, you're not actually receiving anything in a digital form. If you donate to charity, you're not receiving anything in a digital form. So what we had to do is work with the European legislators to redefine digital content. So it included voice services, included digital services as well as digital content. This is like a year-long task with European. Also, because the legislation has been put in by financial regulators, they really didn't have a concern over the telecommunications-based business, and so they're trying to squeeze down the value. So they're squeezing it down to €10. They're forbidding the money transfer services, and therefore knocking out charitable donations as an example, or virtual gaming, where you pay for your weapons on your online gaming. So those effectively are money transfer services, and also topping up international calling cards. So a lot of services would have gone away. So we're deeply concerned about PSD2, and we worked with UK Treasury, and we've got a couple of MPs on our side worked with the UK Treasury and sent UK Treasury out into Europe, into the working groups in Europe, to act on behalf of the telecommunications industry, which is quite an interesting aspect, because we have a Treasury person who knows everything about everything financial, knows nothing about telecommunications, calling me from St Pancras just before she's about to hit the 7 o'clock train to Brussels, saying, "Can you tell me about this?" And literally I was educating her over the phone on what sorts of services that consumers engage with and how mobile networks prevent money laundering through this facility. So it's quite interesting year. But as a net result, we've now got quite a lot of concessions built into the exemption. So the amendments we made, we added voice services, which are going to be wiped off. We added, because the Italians wanted transport tickets, we said, well, let's just cross off the word transport and make it tickets. And I'll talk about tickets in a minute. And we added a specific exemption for charitable donations, because we didn't want to see that disappear. The UK industry or the UK net worth of charitable donations at the moment is 120 million. And on top of that, there's about 7 million gift aids, so it's about 127 million pound business at this moment in time, which is very good for the charities. Also, it's very good for consumers because they learn about texting into a short code and getting a charge back from that short code, and that helps them engage with other services with confidence. So the exemption also is that the original wording was that the payment service had to be an ancillary to the network operator's business, and we added in that it's additional to the telecommunication provider's business. Sorry, not the payment service, the payments themselves have to be ancillary, so you could buy anything that's telecoms, but you could buy anything that's not telecoms, a bit of complication. We built the values up from 10 euros to 50 euros per transaction. We couldn't get away, actually the slide's wrong, it's a 300 euro, now a 300 euro monthly. We couldn't get away from that, and that still causes problems for network operators. And finally, to redefine the content to say, to include services and to include voice. So the actual text, if you want to work your way through that, it essentially is payment transactions by providing an electronic communications network or service, provided in addition to your services. So there were a couple of companies that said, I've registered as a telecommunications business, and now I can do payments as a result, and that wasn't the intent. So that's why that wording is there. For the purchase of digital content and voice-based services, regardless of the device used for the purchase or consumption, and charged the related bill, or performed from an electronic device and charged the related bill within the framework of the charitable activities. We preserved that area. And then the proviso is doesn't exceed 50 euros per transaction, and it doesn't exceed 300 euros per month. Now this one we fought, and as it comes into the UK in legislations probably about December this year, we're working with Treasury to say if that's a hard stop that network operators have to provide, then the cost of implementing that far exceeds the protection that you're giving to the consumer, because there's very few people that actually go beyond that 300 euros a month. There's a few, like sales reps travelling up and down the country that are constantly onto directory inquiries, 118 services, and they do run up a very large bill, and what they don't want is halfway through the month to get to the 300 euros stop, and they can't call directory inquiries after that. So we're trying to work with Treasury to say, let's make this a reporting exercise that X% have gone over the 300 euros, and when X gets to a large figure, like 5 to 10% of the telecom operator's business, then we'll look at whether the telecom operator has to become financially regulated. And digital content redefined now means goods and services which are produced and supplied in digital form, the use or consumption of which is restricted to a technical device and which does not include in any way the use or consumption of physical goods and services. So Europe, we got the bit at the top, that was us. Europe added that bit at the bottom. They do not want anyone to buy physical goods or services with their telecommunications account. Now, we have services which you could classify as being physical, like paying for a taxi, for example. That is a service. Is it physical or is it not? So there's going to be some ambiguity around that as we move forward. But opportunities. So the first major opportunity is ticketing. Now, what is a ticket? So consumers can order, pay for, obtain and validate electronic tickets from any location at any time using mobile phones or other devices. These are extracts from the recital, so legal interpretation goes back to look at that, to see what the intent was. And electronic tickets allow and facilitate the delivery of services that consumers could otherwise purchase in a paper ticket form and include transport, entertainment, car parking and entry to venues, but exclude physical goods. So you can't buy a ticket for your cup of coffee, but you can buy a ticket for a cinema, or a ticket for a theatre, or a ticket for a car park ticket, for example. So on the entertainment side, the opportunities for exploiting this new category of tickets, which has previously been in doubt under PSD1, is that across the UK, 40% of all venues selling seats, like this one, well, we didn't sell the seats here, but all venues will have about 40% unsold. Now, there's good reasons for that sometimes, because either it's a crap show, so it's a rubbish show and no one's going to it, or you could be doing something like a county cricket match but held at Lord's. And Lord's is a huge place, and you would never sell a county cricket match. You know, you'd never do a set-out on county cricket at Lord's. So there's good reasons for that. There's an opportunity for services to be set up where you can spontaneously purchase a ticket at a very low price for something that's happening in a day or 2 days or 3 days. So a cinema chain, for example, can go, okay, let's work out, based on the trends, I'm now going to have quite a lot of empty seats in my in this particular film. The film's going to be shown anyhow. It's going to be shown to 10 people. We would like 100 people to watch it. Don't care about the seats, because 100 people buying popcorn actually is where the margin's made, popcorn and Coca-Cola. So dump those seats at £1, but how do you get the audience? And we as a telemedia industry know very well how to market to an audience and how to make offers that are compelling out to a target audience. And other products such as geofencing and push notifications via wallets, Android wallet and Apple Pay has got push notification capability. You've got the opportunities with geofencing to actually say there is a special offer for seats at this venue on this date at this price. So there's some great opportunities there. The other thing that is the actual ticketing industry is technologically backwards. So they need somebody who's technologically superior, which this industry is, to actually come in and say, we will do the ticketing facility. We can now do it and charge it to mobile, and we'll give us the data, and we can process the data and make it available to consumers. I put at the bottom there opportunity for, I've misspelled it there as well, Uberization. So it's supposed to be Uberization, so apologise for the spelling mistake. I'm using that because somebody said to me, Uberization means doing small things well, and it's after the service called Uber, which is your taxi service, which is essentially taking something that currently exists, which is taxis, consumers, payment, adding it all together with a bit of mapping and making a really fantastic service for a consumer without actually changing or implementing anything but the app. And travel, permissible under PSD2 is trains, buses, car parks, taxis, anything that is related to travel. Buses is a great opportunity because of the younger audience that isn't financially enabled with contactless payment cards. Buses generally populated by young people and old people, and white-collar workers like ourselves rarely travel on buses. But it is a very difficult market to enter because the people who run transport are slow decision makers and very bureaucratic. So take a year to 2 years to actually sell a new concept into a transport company. You are also competing with the emergence of contactless payments on buses and trains, where you can use your existing credit card as long as it's contactless to get you through the gate. And again, spelled correctly, opportunities there for Uberization. And then the other areas that we're sort of pushing as concepts, and we will get some legal advice as we move forward, is where you've got digital access to physical goods. So you saw all the way through a presentation that Europe do not want you to buy physical goods with your telecommunications account. You've actually got opportunities to create a ticket or let's call it a ticket. So the first one is a discount club, where providing I've got this facility on my phone, which I bought, maybe at £5–10, I can show it to the restaurant or the coffee shop, and they will give me a discount as long as I pay for that product using my existing financial means. So we've got a service about to be set up in the UK, which provides a restaurant discount club, which is 10% off your bill, providing you've joined this club. You join this club on your mobile, and the restaurant takes your money, either cash or card. Also, some concerns around the €50 transaction. Doesn't really buy an awful lot of theatre tickets. If the theatre, theatres charge you, 45 quid a seat or something like that, it's very difficult to then buy multiple tickets for your family, even if it's deeply discounted. So the opportunity there is to provide a deposit, so a £5 deposit on your seat, and you pay for the full price when you get to the theatre, or the discounted price. And reservations and queue jumping. There is a service where you can book a table at a restaurant. Some of the restaurants in London have got 4-year waiting lists because they're so popular. You can actually jump the waiting list through a mobile application that takes advantage of late-minute cancellations. So that particular restaurant which you'd never get into, suddenly you get a text message, now available, book now, and you pay for that facility. So those are the areas of actually giving you access to physical goods without actually providing you with those physical goods that PSD2 will provide. And I think that's me.